My name's Karen Hedley, and I was 19 to 29, and I'm from Alnwick.
What do you remember about the social life in the 80s?
It was very plain, very simple. We all would meet up with each other when we finished work, have a little chat, arrange where we're going to meet at the night time, and then we would go off home and get dressed, and then all meet in the nominated pub, which we all would probably meet in the hot spa.
Which the pub with?
Yes, it was normally like girls that we'd sort of grown up with all our lives, and then like different friends we'd met from work, then we'd all just sort of meet up and sort of have a good crack about what happened through the week and the day. And yes, we did. We would start off in the Hotspur Hotel, then we'd go down to the Fleece, then we'd go along to a pub called the Globe, which is not there anymore. Then we would cross over the road, go to the George, then down to the Dirty Bottles, sometimes a pub called the Black Swan, but it's generally the Dirty Bottles, round the corner into Oscar's, across the road into the Oddfellas, then we would sort of backtrack on ourselves and then come back up, go to a pub called the Nag's Head, then to the Market Tavern, cross over the road and go to a pub called JW's, and then go a little further up and end up, our last port of call would be the Bluebell at night time, where there'd be generally a disco, and that's where we sort of stayed till the end of the night.
What were the pubs like in the 80s? Were they busy?
Oh, yes, very, very busy, especially on a Friday and Saturday night, because everybody sort of finished work and everybody sort of went out on a Friday night, and they were full. All the pubs were full, plenty going on, loads of chat. There'd be darts, pool games, absolutely full to the door.
Did you ever play darts or pool in the pubs?
Yes, I did. I played darts for the Dirty Bottles, which I really enjoyed.
Did any of your colleagues or friends play darts with you?
My friends did, yes. I had friends that sort of like knew, but I didn't actually work with some of the ones that, like most of the ones that I played darts with. I didn't actually work with them, but we'd been friends through like historical friends, which we'd sort of grown up with.
What kind of music did you like to listen to in the 80s?
Well, mine was varied. I wasn't really a glam rock person. You know, we had like Sweet, Mud, Shawadi Wadi, stuff like that. I wasn't really into that. My sort of music was like heavy rock, sort of. I could go like Ozzy Osbourne, Rainbow, a band called Rush, and then I could swing back onto Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and that was my kind of music that I would play.
What kind of music did they play in the pubs?
It was mainly, you would have like a jukebox. It was kind of like mainly what was like the top of the time. You'd have like Suzi Quattro, you would have Mud on, like glam rock type of stuff, things like that. Just really, you'd probably get David Cassidy playing at the end of the night, or you get the Osmonds, a love song from them at the end of the night, or something like that.
Did you ever see any bands live in the 80s?
I did, yes. I seen Shawadi Wadi, which was, I really enjoyed seeing them, and I went to see, I can't remember who else it was. It was just like Shawadi Wadi. I'd seen it at the Viking.
Do you remember Live Aid?
Yes. Just some of it, yes. Yes, a little bit of it.
What did you think of it?
I thought it was quite good. I liked the music. It was really, really good. It wasn't, to me, it was like natural voices, and it wasn't so technical. The song itself wasn't like, I don't know what the word you use now, like synthesized voices or whatever it is. It was like real voices singing to a microphone, and it wasn't like messed about with, is what they tend to, I think my personal opinion is how they mess about with voices these days. Because I like raw voices, you know, people who can sing where their voices aren't messed with and they can actually produce notes. That's what I listen to.
What can you remember about the fashion in the 80s?
Well, that was something else. In the 80s, either you went glam rock or you went sort of heavy metal rock, which was like leathers and sort of like a biker look. And then your glam rock was like 2-inch platforms, massive high shoes, glitzy, glitter in your hair all, sort of you dried your hair upside down and got like really massive sort of perms. You always like got the perms put in and stuff like that. And it was like really high volume makeup and like dyeing your hair. Well, I decided one day I would dye my hair, and I thought, well, I had a bit of purple in and a bit of pink in and a bit of blue in and sort of like multicolour. And I come downstairs and I thought I looked the bees. I thought with the bees, I thought I looked really good. And my dad goes, he sort of looked at us like, went, "Are you really going out like that?" I went, "Yeah." He says, "You look like a parrot." So I went, "Oh, well, get in." But I thought I looked great. Or you could go like all black, and then there was like the mods, like the mod scene type of thing would come in, and there was like ska, and then was Northern Soul, and there was varied type of music. So you kind of chose what way it went, but that's where I went. I was sort of like heavy rock type of swing back to Elvis to Frank Sinatra.
What sort of films did you watch in the 80s?
Oh, now we're talking. My main films that I would go and watch would be Rocky, Rambo, Star Wars films, the beginning of Star Wars, Grease, that type of thing. But my main one was, as soon as the Rocky film came out, I was there. The Exorcist film, I really enjoyed that. Because I would tend to go towards like the horror type of film. Friday the 13th. And then you would get like Halloween coming out. That, you know, seeing them first time round was just brilliant. You know, they were my type of films.
What were the cinemas like in Alnwick in the 80s?
Oh, well, one thing you were allowed to do was smoke. You had little ashtrays on the back of the seat in front of you. You could smoke. The seats were like sitting on rock because there was no comfort to them. They were like stationary and you couldn't move. Like today's cinemas, it's like sitting on a really comfortable leather sort of settee, but there it was like you sat down and you had a person go around with a torch, and if you misbehaved, they would shine the torch on you and you'd get turfed out, which I actually did in the 80s. I used to work at Alnwick Playhouse at a night time, and it was only because I love films, and there's a little seat where you sat, and you had your little torch. If anybody was kicking off, you would just shine the torch on them and say, right, you know, if you don't shut up, you're getting turfed out. And you had someone come around with like a little box with like a thing, and if they wanted ice creams at sort of the intervals and things like that. And it was good. I enjoyed it.
What kind of TV shows did you watch in the 80s?
It was mainly game shows at night time. You sort of got like the Generation game would come on and stuff like that, and then Starsky and Hutch. I really enjoyed watching them, but it was, to me, I wasn't really a television person. I would watch films all the time. I'd be more of a film person, but like some things, like I'd watch Open All Hours would come on, and you know, watching the beginning of that, and then when you see the reruns of today, you think, my God, I remember that when it first came out, you know.
What can you remember about Alnwick Fair?
Well, it was just, I quite enjoyed it. I think it was a good thing for Alnwick. People got dressed up for the week, and we all used to go out, and sometimes we'd just stay out, and it was, everybody got together, and we had Dwyle Flonken, which was a circle of people, and then someone had a bucket, and they threw a stick at a person, and that person would have to drink a pint of beer. And I had music on, and everybody dressed up in like the 1800s and stuff like that, and you would get like different sort of people playing like old-fashioned type of folk music and stuff like that. It was really, really good. But then it kind of faded away for whatever reason. I don't think it held the interest to the younger generation. That's kind of my opinion.
Did you have any hobbies in the 80s?
Hobbies. I like motorbikes. I love to mess about with motorbikes and cars. Because I had a mate of mine and we used to like buy motorbikes. I used to like do them up. I had a Honda 750, a Honda 125, and I had a thing what was called a Stimson Scorcher, which is had like two wheels at the front, and it had like a little wheel at the back, and you sort of drove it like a car but rode it like a bike. So I've got a few pictures of that. And that was kind of like my hobby, like cars, and I quite enjoyed motorbikes and films. They were my main thing, motorbikes and that.
Can you remember any particular characters you used to hang around with in the 80s?
Yes, a one who's, am I allowed to say her name?
Yeah.
Oh, Tina Camilleri, she was a character. She was so funny, and she was, like one of the people in your memories that who you sort of is in there all the time. She was a very good friend of mine. So that's the main one. I'm not saying the rest of them. They'll kill us. Worked in a factory, and we made clothes for Marks and Spencer's. And then I changed over from that, and I went to work in another factory where we made tents and clothing, like ultimate coat jackets. But I enjoyed working in the factory at Rothbury. That was my main place where I worked.
How long were you working in factories for?
First one was from when I was 16 till I was about 20. And then the next one was from when I was about 23, 24 till I was about 28, 29.
What was the atmosphere like in the factory?
Oh, brilliant. It was really good fun. Everybody sort of looked after each other, and you made really good friends for life because you started there when you left school. Well, I did when I was 16. And we all sort of got together and just helped each other out. And an old-fashioned saying, instead of knocking your friend's crown off, you helped straighten it and boosted each other up.
What can you remember about the factories closing?
Oh, it was just horrendous. The main thing was that the reason why they closed the factories were they could actually make the clothes cheaper abroad, because the company I worked for was Marks and Spencer's, and we made Eastex and Dorita clothing, shirts, blouses, skirts and stuff for them. So they decided to close the factories and take the factory abroad, where the clothing was made cheaper, the thread was cheaper, the whole thing was cheaper, and they could sell it at the extortionate prices what they were selling it, but there was a thing called quality control. Well, a lot of factories abroad then didn't have quality control, whereas the English factories did have. But it was a money-making thing. If they could get it made cheaper abroad, bring it back and sell it in the shops, it's still the same price. But a lot of people were realising that they weren't getting the quality, so they weren't buying it. And to this day, it's been on the news, it's always there, that Marks and Spencer's clothing department is in dire straits, and they keep bringing out, oh, people are going to do this and people are going to do that to try and boost the sales for Marks and Spencer's. But it's plain, simple English. Bring the factories back to England, where you'll get your quality, you'll get your clothing quality, you'll get your quality of threads, you'll get your whole quality of the whole garment, rather than the cheapness of it. And then Marks and Spencer's will then rule the high street, because they had no competition. Marks and Spencer's never ever had competition in the 1980s. They were the main sellers of clothing, and then they brought in like the newer shops and stuff like that. I mean, if you want a blouse or a shirt for weddings or something to last, you bought Marks and Spencer's. And it was a name brand, and everybody knew that, you know, oh, I'm going to get a wedding, I'm going to Marks and Spencer to get my gear. And you were 100% guaranteed quality till they decided to shut the British factories and move all the production abroad, where there's no such thing as quality. It was like just put loads of people in a shed, throw the machines in, there you go. That's what, that to me is so sad. And that's why Marks and Spencer's to this day are struggling with their clothing.
Who do you think decided to close the factory?
Well, it would be a big joint thing. It would be like conservative people in charge. It would be the company managers in charge of clothing. They all sort of got together, sat around a big table and thought, right, it's going to be more cost effective to get the clothes made abroad, so just shut the factories. That's how simple it was. They just all got together, and the big people who, you know, the bosses and that, and they just all decided, right, it is much better, well, they thought, to get it made abroad. And then they just thought, right, we'll do that. Got the factories abroad, took all the stuff abroad, we'll get them made abroad and bring them back to this country. And to me, I can't see the logic in doing that. When you're not getting the quality, which you were in the first place, getting your quality, and you were at the top of your game, you had no competition. So why take it somewhere else? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Or don't try to fix it. That's what I was thinking.
Have any family that worked down the mine?
Yes, I did. Yes, I had some uncles and that, and they worked down the mines. My dad actually worked in a mine, but it was in Australia, so he didn't actually work in the British mines. But my uncles did, and it was like small seams, and you know, it was, you know, hard work, hard graft, really hard graft.
Can you remember anything about the place of the miners in the community in the 80s?
Oh, yes, it was, the communities were based around your mines, because a good percentage of the workforce worked in the mines, and you had like your little mine communities. You had like Shillbottle, that was a mining community. You had Hamperth, and there was like Ellington, and it was, the father went out to work, and you know, it was happy. Everybody was happy, and you know, it was a nice place to be. It was a nice place to be, and then certain people decided to get it into their heads to shut the mines, and that's when the problem started. They thought it would just close them. Not only did they close the mines, but they closed families down, they closed communities down. You know, by closing a mine and shutting everything down like that, just because of whatever reason they had behind it, probably hatred for the unions. I think that would be my opinion of it, that they didn't like the unions. They didn't like the fact that the workman of that day had somebody protecting them now. And they thought, well, we need to get rid of the unions. We need to get rid of it. So it was horrendous. So they shut the mines down, but they shut people's lives down as well. Because, you know, like a father who'd worked in the mines all his life, where was he going to get another job at 50, 60, you know? And years ago, it was like, your granda worked the mines, you worked the mines, and it was a job you were going to get, and you worked there. It was a guaranteed pay, and then they just severed the main artery and then destroyed communities by doing that.
Who do you think was responsible for closing the mines?
Margaret Thatcher and the Conservative government. Nobody else but her and our people behind her. Because she had, my own opinion is, she had a dislike for the unions, and it was a personal vendetta myself. She just didn't like the unions, and she didn't like the mines being open. And she'd, like, thought she could buy it elsewhere cheaper, get it imported. Why import it when you've got great minds here, great people working for you? So why would you want to take it elsewhere and shut communities down, shut lives down?
Would you say that mines closing down still affects the community?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of deep-rooted memories of families breaking up, husbands feeling like they weren't worthy anymore because they weren't bringing in the wage, and you know, they having to, after years and years of doing the same job, having to go and look for a job. And I think a cut like that, when you sever somebody like that, that scar will remain for the rest of their life.
Memories of strike? What do you remember about the miners' strike?
I can remember there was a lot of they sort of got the police there, and you know, people were striking not to close the mines, but you know, they were fighting for their rights, but yet they weren't going to be allowed to fight for their rights because they were bringing in people, you know, on buses and whatever to go into work for the mines, but they weren't actually. To me, they weren't listening to the people's protests, and the people are going on strike saying, here, you can't do this, you can't shut me down, you shut us down, you shut our main artery of life down. But the Conservative Party were not interested in that. They weren't interested in severing lives, severing communities. That was completely of no interest to them. They wanted to shut the mines, and that was it.
Did you ever see any conflict between miners and police officers?
No, I never seen it. Only on TV I've seen it, but I never actually seen it in life myself, no.
What do you think about Margaret Thatcher?
Personally myself, I think she was a very uncaring, selfish person. She had no compassion for workers, for like the grafters of the world. She was all for the Conservative government, all for money, for themselves. She never ever in her life knew anything about poverty. She tried to say that, oh, you know, she kind of did, but she didn't. She didn't understand one bit that by closing the mines, she was destroying human beings' lives. She was destroying families' lives, generations of families' lives, and still to this day, she's destroyed generations to come because families were splitting up and things like that. And personally myself, she just didn't care. She wasn't interested. She wanted to close the mines, the steel factories down, and that was her main ambition. And whatever was left behind was collateral to her. That was it. She didn't care.
What were your opinions on the unions?
Oh, brilliant, because they were there to protect people. They were there. They were brought in to protect the workers so that you had your right pay, you had good working hours to work with. They made sure that you weren't sort of, like your bosses weren't exploiting you, which years and years ago, before the unions and that came in, they were like throwing 5-year-olds up chimneys and getting kids to go into work in horrendous conditions. And people, I know health and safety is a little bit of a pain in the backside at the minute, but when the unions had it, you know, you had proper hours to work to and things like that.